Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging right into the 1962 India-China War. This deep dive is really designed for you to cut through all the complexity and get straight to the crucial insights. Our mission today, to unpack the sources you've given us, everything from the Himalayan flashpoints to the lasting geopolitical fallout. We want to understand not just what happened, but really why this short, intense conflict still echoes across the continent today. Think of it as your fast track to being genuinely informed on a really pivotal moment.
Yeah, and what's really striking, I think, is how a conflict that lasted, barely a month, how something so short fought in those incredibly high Himalayas could set off such profound, long-lasting changes. It wasn't just about borders on a map. It really reshaped national identities, geopolitical thinking. We'll get into the harsh realities on the ground, but also those unexpected ripple effects that, frankly, we still see playing out. Okay, let's dive in.
Right, so to understand that huge shift, we need to start with the flashpoints. What actually led to this sudden eruption in October 62? Our sources consistently point to the disputed Himalayan border. That's the obvious trigger. But, well, there were deeper things going on, too, weren't there?
Oh, definitely. The border was central, no doubt. But you also had India granting asylum to the Dalai Lama after the '59 Tibetan revolt. That certainly raised the temperature.
And then there was India's forward policy. What was that exactly?
Right. So the fuse was kind of lit by these two very assertive policies hitting each other. India's forward policy wasn't just symbolic. It was about actively establishing military posts, pushing Indian presence right up to what China saw as its line, sometimes even crossing it. They were trying to assert sovereignty over disputed areas like Aksai Chin in the west and what was then NEFA, now Arunachal Pradesh, in the east. And this naturally ran straight into China's own claims, specifically that line of actual control Premiers Yu and Lai had declared back in '59.
Okay, so it's like competing assertions of control meeting head-on.
Pretty much.
And that really set the stage for China's response, which was, well, quite overwhelming, wasn't it?
It was. They launched simultaneous attacks October 20th, 1962. Hit hard across the McMahon Line in the east, that old British drawn line China never accepted, and also in Ladakh in the west. Militarily, they proved superior. They quickly occupied some really key strategic areas like Razangla and Chushul and Toan.
And the conditions, the sources really emphasize this. Fighting mostly above 4,250 meters, that's over 14,000 feet.
Yeah, brutal is putting it mildly. Imagine war at that altitude. Some peaks over 7,000 meters. The sources stress, that for many soldiers on both sides, the extreme cold was a deadly, maybe more so than the enemy fire. Frostbite, exposure.
Just incredible logistical challenges, I imagine.
Immense. Just keeping troops supplied, alive, it was a nightmare. And what's also really interesting is that neither side used their Navy or Air Force.
Really? No air power at all?
None. It stayed a ground war. And China often managed to use that difficult terrain to their advantage, securing the higher ground in many places.
So a war against the elements, almost as much as against each other. What did that battlefield reality mean for the outcome?
Well, China's military edge, plus that strategic advantage in terrain, it led to pretty decisive victories on the battlefield. But then, interestingly, China declared a unilateral ceasefire, November 20th, 1962, just a month after it started, and they withdrew from some areas.
So they stopped. Why?
Beijing said they'd achieved their defensive aims, mainly securing control over Aksai Chin in the west. But the war's consequences, they were huge, especially for India.
Right. Internationally, our sources suggest China's image definitely took a knock. The West, particularly the U.S., tended to see them as the aggressor. But for India, domestically, wow, it seems like a profound shock.
Absolutely profound. It forced immediate widespread changes in the military. That sort of post-independence idealism shattered. The defeat brought this stark realization, that national security needed more than just diplomacy. It really kick-started this drive towards military modernization, self-reliance in arms, something you still see in India's defense posture today.
And politically.
Well, it unleashed this huge wave of patriotism, but also intense pressure on Prime Minister Nehru. He was heavily criticized. People felt he hadn't seen the attack coming, that his whole Hindi Chini Bye Bye India-China brotherhood policy had been naive.
And that led to Defense Minister Krishna Menon resigning.
Directly. The sense of unpreparedness was just too strong. He had to go.
And just when you think you've got the picture, there's this detail from the sources that's, well, frankly astonishing. The Nizam of Hyderabad's donation.
Yeah, that's remarkable, isn't it? In 1965, mind you, a few years later, Mir Osman Ali Khan donates 5,000 kilograms of gold.
5,000 kilos, that's huge.
It's enormous. 11,000 pounds of gold. to the National Defense Fund. It was more than just money. It became this incredible symbol of national unity, coming from a former princely ruler right when the nation felt so vulnerable, a real rallying point.
So bringing it all together, what does this deep dive tell us today? This 1962 war, it was incredibly short, wasn't it?
Barely a month of actual fighting.
But the intensity, the long-term impact, it seems it dramatically reshaped the whole future path for both India and China, their strategies, their outlooks.
Absolutely. It's a really powerful reminder, I think, of how quickly things can change and how deeply perceived betrayals or strategic shocks can lodge themselves in a nation's psyche, how they can shape policy, border disputes, national identity for decades and decades afterwards.
So for you listening, what really stands out from all this? And maybe think about how these pivotal events, even ones fought in remote, high-altitude regions, how do they continue